Sometimes losing you is the only way they'll ever learn what they had. Read that again, my friends. Let it slap. Let it land like a truth bomb in a world full of delusions. You can't be replaced, but they have to learn that alone. You tried to explain your value. You tried to be enough. You gave them love, time, consistency, and loyalty, yet they treated it like background noise. But here's the truth they never tell you. Your silence will teach them what your presence couldn't. If you're tired of being the one who always shows up, always explains, and always holds it together while they fall apart, quietly behind fake strength, then you're in the right place. Hey folks, imagine this. You're a rare book, first edition, leather-bound, priceless, but they treated you like a fast food receipt, crumpled you up, threw you on the floorboard, and walked away like you were just another chapter in their story. Now, here they are, trying to replace you with paperbacks and plastic covers, quick reads, cheap thrills. But here's the catch. Value doesn't scream. Value doesn't beg to be seen. It simply exists. Quiet, rare, and missed the moment it's gone. And that's you. That's always been you. See, they thought you'd always be there. Like Wi-Fi. Invisible, reliable, and taken for granted until it's gone. And when the silence hits, when your energy disappears from their life, it doesn't echo like noise. It pierces. It makes them question everything. That's not just silence, my friends. That's power. That's what happens when you stop explaining your worth and let them sit in the absence they created. But let me break a lie real quick. A lie too many of you still carry. You think if they left, it means you weren't enough. You think being replaced means you failed. Wrong. People don't replace you because you were weak. They replace you because they were blind. Blind to your value. Blind to the way you stayed when others would have left. Blind to the way you loved without keeping score. So don't carry their blindness like it's your burden. That's not yours to hold anymore. You were not meant to chase people who don't see you. You were not built to beg. You were built to build, to rise, to stand in your power, even when the world tries to dim it. And if they couldn't recognize your value when you were present, they'll feel the weight of your absence when they're alone, scrolling, stalking, wondering, regretting. That's the lesson. That's the karmic slap they don't see coming, and you don't have to deliver it. Time does that for you. In silence, in solitude, in the space where you grow and they unravel. Let me say something that might sound cold, but it's the truth that'll set you free. They need to feel the pain of losing you without the comfort of knowing you're still waiting. That's where real growth happens, not for them, but for you. Because the moment you stop looking back, stop explaining, and stop hoping they'll get it, that's the moment you step into your evolution. So stay with me. We're just getting started. We're about to dig deep into what it really means to be irreplaceable in a world that's obsessed with quick replacements. This isn't about ego. This is about truth, about waking up to your worth and watching how everything changes when you stop begging to be chosen. You are not replaceable, and they will learn that, but they'll have to learn it alone. Write this in the comments to lock it in. I am not replaceable. Let the world know. Let them know. And while you're here, make sure to press that like button, subscribe, and stay with me, because by the time we're done, you won't even want them back. You'll want your power back. And this time, you're keeping it. Number 1, they left not because you weren't enough. You don't lose value just because someone else failed to recognize it. That one hits, doesn't it? Because deep down, most people aren't scared of being alone. They're scared of not being chosen. Scared that someone walking away means something's wrong with them. But my friends, let's get one thing clear. Their decision to leave doesn't define your worth. It just exposes their lack of vision. Imagine a man at a garage sale who stumbles across a dusty old painting. He looks at it for 2 seconds, shrugs, and keeps walking. Later, someone else recognizes it. It's an original worth millions. Now ask yourself, was the painting worthless because the first person didn't see the value? Or was it always priceless, just waiting for the right eyes to see it? That's you. They couldn't see it, not because you were too little, but because they were too distracted, too immature, too unready. And now you're here questioning yourself, wondering if you said too much, if you should have cared less, loved less, or been less available. Stop. That's fear talking. That's trauma convincing you that you have to become invisible to feel safe. That's a lie, and it ends here. They didn't leave because you were too much. They left because they weren't enough to handle what you brought to the table. You brought presence, consistency, and emotional depth into a world that's addicted to cheap dopamine and half-hearted attention. That's rare, and rare things don't always get appreciated immediately. Sometimes it takes losing something solid to realize how hollow everything else is. It's tough though, isn't it? Sitting in silence, staring at your phone, waiting for some kind of explanation that never comes. Your mind spiraling with thoughts like, what did I do wrong? Why wasn't I enough? Why did they move on so easily? But let me flip that for you. Maybe they didn't move on. Maybe they ran from realness, from accountability, from the kind of connection they knew they couldn't maintain without eventually being exposed for their emotional inconsistency. You were the storm and the calm, the peace and the power, and they thought they could handle it until they realized they were still playing emotional games while you were living in emotional truth. And truth is uncomfortable. That's why they left. Not because you were too much, but because you were a mirror. And what they saw in your reflection scared them more than they'll ever admit. Stop thinking their exit means you failed. No, my friend, you were the test, and they just failed it. They have to sit with that now, in silence, in regret, in wondering if maybe, just maybe, they walked away from something real. But that's not your lesson, that's theirs. Yours is this: never lower your frequency to fit someone who can't tune into it. Never apologize for being the kind of person who actually shows up with a full heart in a world that worships half effort. If you're ready to stop blaming yourself for their blindness, if you're done carrying the weight of someone else's poor judgment, then write this in the comments: their confusion isn't my burden. Say it loud, say it proud, show them, show yourself, show the world. Because what comes next is where you stop asking why they left and start asking why you stayed so long trying to prove something you already were. Stay with me, we're just getting started. Number 2, the illusion of replacement fades fast. Fast replacements reveal more about their emptiness than your worth. Let's not sugarcoat this, my friends. When they replaced you fast, faster than your heart could even process what happened, you probably felt like a discarded object, like a used phone they traded in for a newer model. That's what it looks like from the outside, right? But here's the reality. Quick replacements are always shallow substitutions, not upgrades. And deep down, they know it too. It's like putting a bandage on a broken bone. From a distance, it looks like they're healing, moving on, thriving. But beneath the surface, that bone is still broken, still hurting, still unhealed. And it always shows with time. Because what they found after you was fast, not deep. Convenient, not real. Familiarity was replaced with novelty. But novelty has an expiration date. Real doesn't. Let's get brutally honest for a second. They didn't move on. They distracted themselves. That's different. Anyone can fill a void. Anyone can find a warm body, a new face, a temporary thrill. But you weren't just a space filler. You were the foundation. You gave stability in a world that's obsessed with stimulation. You provided consistency while they chased chaos. And now that you're gone, all they've got are highlight reels with no substance behind them. But of course, you saw the pictures, didn't you? The posts, the stories, the new connection. It stung because they made it look effortless. like what you had was replaceable, like you never really mattered. But let me break that illusion for good. People post their performances, not their reality. That smiling picture doesn't show the late-night void. That romantic caption doesn't reveal the emotional disconnect. And that perfect new bond is built on the shaky ground of avoidance, not healing. You can't compare your pain to their performance. You went through the storm. You sat with the silence. You faced yourself while they grabbed the nearest distraction and called it growth. That's not strength. That's escape. And it always comes full circle. Here's the truth that hurts them more than anything else. You can't actually be replaced, only imitated. And imitation wears thin fast because the depth you brought came from your soul, from your patience, from your presence that can't be copied, that can't be faked. And when the surface level excitement fades, and it always does, what's left is a comparison they never thought they'd be making. A slow, creeping realization that they traded a diamond for glitter, and glitter doesn't shine in the dark. They have to sit with that now, not you. Your silence isn't empty, it's a mirror, and eventually they'll look into it. And what they'll see staring back at them isn't just your absence. It's their own reflection, the choices they made, the reality they tried to avoid, the pain they thought they were escaping when they rushed to someone else. And that pain grows in silence. It echoes in solitude. And one day it knocks louder than your presence ever did. But let's talk about you now, because this isn't just about proving them wrong. It's about remembering who you are. You're not someone who gets replaced. You're someone who gets remembered. When the fun fades, when the noise quiets, when they're alone with their thoughts and no one is replying with the kind of presence you used to bring, that's when the illusion breaks. That's when the pain starts creeping in, and they realize you were never just an option. You were the standard. So if you're done competing with cheap distractions, if you're done feeling less because someone tried to swap you out like you were disposable, then write this in the comments right now. I can't be replaced. I can only be missed. Say it with your chest. Show them. Show yourself. Show the world. Because we're not shrinking anymore. We're not reacting. We're building quietly, powerfully, and they'll feel it. Not because you proved anything, but because time always exposes what noise tries to cover. Stay with me, folks. We're about to go even deeper, because the moment you stop trying to be seen is the moment they start realizing what they lost, and they'll have to learn that alone. Number 3, your absence is the teacher they feared. Some people only learn through loss because they refuse to learn through love. And that, my friends, is the brutal truth. You gave them the easy path, the path of love, presence, and loyalty. You tried to teach them with your patience, with your forgiveness, and with all the second chances they thought they were entitled to. But they didn't listen. They didn't see. They didn't care. And now they get the other teacher, your absence. See, your presence was protection. Whether they knew it or not, you were the shield between them and their own chaos. The anchor in a sea they didn't even realize was storming beneath the surface. But when they let go of you, when they thought walking away was winning, they didn't know what was coming. They didn't know silence could scream louder than any words ever could. And they definitely didn't expect that the quiet would haunt them louder than any fight ever did. Let me paint the picture. They wake up one morning and you're not there. Not in their phone, not in their feed, not in their world. No message, no chase, no long paragraph explaining why you're gone. Just space. Space filled with the echo of their own decisions. And that space, that's where the lessons start. You don't need to punish them. Life will, time will, their own reflection will. Because when you were around, they could blame you, distract themselves, rewrite the story so they could sleep at night. But now that you've pulled away, now they have to sit with the truth. And the truth is this: they lost someone who would have gone to war for them simply because they couldn't stop playing games. But let me address the part you're probably still questioning. Why do I even care if they learn? Why do I still feel this ache if I know I was good to them? Because you're human, because you loved, because loyalty leaves bruises when it's not returned. But pain is not proof you should go back. Pain is proof you gave something real, and the fact that they couldn't receive it, that's not on you, that's on their ego. Their ego told them they could do better, that you'd always be there, that losing you wasn't a real risk. And the only thing stronger than an inflated ego is the silence that follows when reality kicks in. That silence is now their teacher, their mirror, their reminder. And it cuts deeper than your presence ever could, because now they don't just feel your absence. They feel who they were when they still had access to you and what they did with it. You see, growth never happens in comfort. It happens when the illusion breaks, when the fallback plan disappears, when the phone stays dry, when the feed stays empty, and suddenly they're alone with their choices. That's when regret grows. Not when they find someone new, not when they post and pretend, but in the middle of the night when they realize they've burned the bridge and the road back doesn't exist anymore. And don't confuse your silence with being petty. This isn't revenge. This is resurrection. You're not hiding, you're healing. You're not playing games, you're pulling back your energy and placing it where it always should have been, on you. You're becoming untouchable, not by force, but by focus, by finally understanding that being irreplaceable doesn't mean proving your worth. It means removing it when it's not respected. So let them learn. Let them sit in the classroom of consequences. Let them feel what life looks like without your light. Because only then, only in your absence, can the lesson be fully understood. If you're ready to stop explaining your worth and start letting your silence speak for you, then write this in the comments right now. My absence is the lesson. Write it like you mean it. Say it like a person who's done shrinking. Show them, show yourself, show the world that from this point forward, your presence is earned, not assumed, not demanded, earned. And stay with me, because what's coming next? That's when you become the person who doesn't just heal. He evolves quietly, powerfully, unapologetically, and they'll feel every second of it. Number 4, you don't prove your value by staying. You prove it by walking away. Real value doesn't beg to be noticed. It walks away, and suddenly everyone notices. Let that one land, my friends. You've spent too long trying to prove your worth to people who were never qualified to measure it. People who only paid attention when you pulled back. People who only started caring when you stopped caring so much. And if that's not a wake-up call, I don't know what is. Let's break something wide open today. They didn't start seeing your worth because you gave more. They saw it when you stopped giving. They saw it when your silence replaced your paragraphs, when your absence replaced your effort, when your calm replaced your chaos. You see, people don't value what's always available. They value what's at risk of being lost. That's just human nature. And you were always there, too available, too understanding, too loyal. You kept showing up, hoping one more gesture, one more kind word, one more attempt to explain would finally make them get it. But it didn't, because people don't wake up when you hand them comfort. They wake up when you hand them space. When you leave, when you disappear from the role they took for granted, that's when the questions start haunting them. Where did he go? Why did he stop trying? Who is he becoming now that I'm not there? You don't earn respect by being overly accessible. You earn it by being missed, by being the one who had the strength to stop showing up for someone who couldn't match your energy. You don't prove your worth by arguing your case like a person on trial. You prove it by walking away like someone who knows exactly who he is, even when no one's clapping for him. Let me put it like this. Diamonds don't explain themselves to people obsessed with glass. They don't shrink just because someone chose something easier to hold. They simply exist and let time do the talking. That's you now. No more convincing, no more proving, no more staying in rooms where your presence is treated like background noise. You walk, and in that walk, in that silence, in that unapologetic decision to put yourself first, that's where they realize what they've lost. But I get it. Walking away feels wrong at first because you're wired to fix. You're wired to care, to try, especially when you love deeply, and they know that. They counted on that. That's why it confused them when you didn't beg, when you didn't chase, when you finally stopped, because the old version of you would have folded, would have broken, would have poured himself empty just to keep their cup full. Not this time. This time, you didn't send the text. You didn't answer the call. You didn't explain why you went silent. You just left the door open behind you and kept walking. And that's what echoes. That's what gets under their skin, not your presence, but your absence. Because now they're sitting in the space you once filled, looking around, realizing none of the noise they chased feels like what you brought. None of it feels solid. None of it feels safe. That's when they start remembering the loyalty, the calm, the comfort, the consistency, the person who was always there, even when they didn't deserve it. And by the time they realize the difference between attention and connection, you'll already be long gone. Not because you were bitter, not because you wanted to hurt them, but because you finally understood this. Your value was never in staying. It was in the strength to leave. If you're done proving yourself to people who only listen after you go quiet, drop this in the comments right now. I prove my worth by walking. Show them. Show yourself. Show the world that your silence isn't weakness. It's wisdom, it's strategy, it's power. And stay with me, my friends, because what's coming next? That's the moment they realize the person they dismissed was the standard, and they'll never be able to fill that space again. Number 5, they have to face the silence they created. You were the voice in their chaos. Now you're the silence in their mind. And nothing is louder than the silence they created, echoing back at them with every scroll, every night alone, every moment where your name almost gets typed but never gets sent. My friends, this is the part they didn't prepare for because they thought your silence was weakness. They thought it meant you had nothing left to say. But the truth is your silence says everything. You used to be the first one to fix things, the first one to apologize even when it wasn't your fault. You filled the air with comfort, reassurance, and presence, and they got used to it, dependent on it. They relied on your voice to feel safe, your messages to feel desired, your consistency to feel loved, even if they never admitted it. You were the emotional engine keeping it all running while they played it cool. And then you stopped quietly, no warning, no dramatic exit, just gone. And now the silence is unbearable, not for you, but for them, because now they have to face what they built. They have to sit in the aftermath of their own emotional games. They have to lie awake in the bed they made. Only now the pillow beside them isn't just empty. It's haunted by the presence they thought they could live without. This is what they never saw coming. The stillness, the space, the reality. See, when you were around, they didn't need to think. You kept showing up. You kept forgiving. You kept explaining your heart like it was on trial. But now that you're gone, now the real trial begins. And it's not your turn to defend yourself anymore. It's their turn to face themselves. They didn't expect the silence to be this loud. They didn't expect to open their feed and not see your name. They didn't expect to look around and realize they're no longer the center of your world. And that realization stings more than any argument ever could, because it means they lost access. Not because you blocked them, but because you evolved out of the need to be heard by someone who only listened when they were losing you. And now they're stuck wondering, is he gone for good? Did I go too far this time? Is he talking to someone else? These questions don't come when you're still chasing. They come when you disappear, when you stop giving them the emotional hit they got addicted to. when you stop being their safety net and start being their wake-up call. But hear this loud and clear: this isn't revenge. This isn't about playing games. This is about letting the silence they created do the talking for you. Because at some point, words become pointless. At some point, you realize the most powerful statement you'll ever make is to go completely quiet. Not because you have nothing left to say, but because they no longer deserve to hear it. They thought you were going to keep explaining, didn't they? Keep reaching, keep trying to solve what they kept breaking, but you didn't. You stopped giving CPR to a connection they kept suffocating. And now the silence is oxygen for your growth and poison to their ego. Let them sit in it. Let them feel the echo. Let them scroll through their phone at 2 a.m., hoping to see your name, but knowing deep down they burned that bridge. And if they ever try to come back, it won't be because they missed your presence. It'll be because your absence finally made them realize you were the one thing they couldn't replace. So if you're done filling silence that wasn't yours to fix, if you're done being the voice in someone's life who never respected your energy, then comment below. Right now, they created the silence. I became the echo. Write it, claim it, show them, show yourself. Show the world that you're not running anymore. You're rising in silence, in strength, in stillness that speaks louder than any goodbye. And stay with me, because what's coming next, that's the part where they finally understand. They didn't just lose your attention, they lost your access. And that silence, that's forever. Number 6, they'll come back, but they won't find the same version of you. You either return to the person you lost, or you meet the person you became without them. And that, my friends, is where it all flips, because they always come back. Maybe not tomorrow, maybe not next week, but they will. And when they do, they'll be looking for the version of you they left behind. The one who still waited, still hoped, still needed closure. But what they don't realize is that version of you doesn't live here anymore. Let's be honest. They didn't expect you to grow in the dark. They expected you to stay stuck, waiting, wondering, watching their stories while they played pretend. They thought silence would break you, that distance would drain you. But it did the opposite. It built you, it sharpened you, it made you dangerous in the best way. Because while they were seeking comfort, you were choosing growth. While they were replacing you, you were rebuilding. Picture this. They scroll through your page months later, expecting sadness, and instead, they see strength. They see you looking more focused, more grounded, more alive. And it shakes them, not because they miss you, but because they realize they no longer recognize you. The person who used to chase them is gone. The person who used to explain himself, beg for clarity, overextend his energy just to keep peace, he's been replaced, not by someone else, but by a better, more powerful version of himself. That's the real transformation. Not the glow-up you post, but the shift they feel. The way your silence hits different now. It used to sound like confusion. Now it sounds like confidence. It used to feel like heartbreak. Now it feels like boundaries, because growth changes your voice, even when you're not speaking. And when they come back, it won't be to the same dynamic. It'll be to a new world they no longer have access to. But here's where it gets tough. Part of you still wants to be seen, still wants to hear them say, I made a mistake. Still wants to know they finally get it, that they finally understand what they lost. And that's okay. You're human. You loved deeply. You gave something real. But don't confuse their regret for your responsibility. Their recognition does not earn them a return ticket. You didn't do all this work, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, just to let someone walk back in with the same patterns they left you with. Growth demands standards. Evolution demands boundaries. And if they want access to you again, it can't be through memory. It has to be through merit. Because the person you've become doesn't hand out access just because someone finally noticed his worth. They'll come back thinking they can pick up where they left off. But this time, you're not standing still. You're moving forward, quietly, powerfully. You've built something in their absence that they never contributed to. And that's exactly what they'll feel when they try to re-enter your life. Not resistance, just distance, earned distance. And if they can't handle the new you, the boundaries, the standards, the focus, they'll call it ego, they'll call it cold. But don't fall for it. It's not ego, it's clarity, it's discipline. It's the result of all those nights you wanted to reach out but chose silence instead. All those moments you missed them but didn't fold. That's what shaped this version of you. And you're not giving that up just to be understood by someone who didn't understand you when it counted. So when they come back, and trust me, they will, let your growth speak louder than their apology. Let your peace answer their curiosity. Let your evolution remind them that access to you was never permanent. It was a privilege they lost the moment they treated you like an option. If you're done shrinking back into the person you were, just to comfort someone who couldn't handle your growth, write this in the comments right now. I evolved beyond their reach. Say it like you mean it. Show them, show yourself, show the world. Because from this point on, your progress isn't for validation, it's your protection. And stay with me because next, we're going even deeper into what it means to become truly irreplaceable, not through presence, but through elevation. Number 7, your irreplaceability is proven by time, not words. What's real doesn't rush to be understood. It waits and lets time do the talking. Let that one hit, my friends, because this is the part where you stop trying to explain your worth and start letting the days, the silence, the absence prove everything you tried to say when they weren't listening. You see, value doesn't shout, it doesn't plead, it doesn't argue to be seen. It disappears and then it echoes. You don't need to prove anything to the ones who walked away. You don't need to post louder, try harder, or explain deeper. Why? Because time reveals what emotions try to hide. Time unmasks all the illusions. And when it does, your absence becomes the lesson that your presence could never teach. They thought you were replaceable. They believed they could swap you out for something lighter, easier, more fun. They mistook your depth for weight, your loyalty for pressure, and in doing so, they made the most common mistake people make when they're used to comfort. They believed that something consistent must be ordinary. But now that you're gone, they're learning the truth. Ordinary doesn't linger. Ordinary doesn't haunt the silence. Ordinary doesn't leave a void that no one else seems able to fill. You were never ordinary, but they had to lose you to learn that. Now it's quiet. Now you're not there to remind them. Now they don't get updates on your life or access to your energy. And guess what? Time starts working not in your face, but in theirs. 1 week becomes a month. 1 month becomes 3. And as life continues, they start noticing something strange. No one is replacing what you were, not fully, not deeply. They try. Oh, they try. They distract, they date, they pretend to move on. But there's always something missing, something off, something that doesn't feel as real, as solid, as grounded as you were. That something was you. And this is where you learn the real power of walking away. Not for attention, not for revenge, but for self-respect. Because the person who leaves quietly is always remembered the loudest. The one who doesn't return texts, who doesn't chase, who doesn't try to prove. He becomes unforgettable. Because your silence speaks in a language their ego never wanted to learn. Accountability. You used to fill in the blanks for them. You used to explain what they refused to ask. But now the blanks stay blank. The questions remain unanswered. And that mystery, that silence, it keeps growing until one day they realize they weren't just losing someone. They were losing the only person who ever gave them peace without asking for payment. But here's the best part. You're not even waiting for this moment. You're not refreshing your feed to see if they finally liked your post. You're not hoping they get it. You've already moved. You've already grown. You're not trying to be missed anymore. You've just become someone they can't forget. And there's a difference. They'll talk about you. Maybe not out loud, maybe not to their friends, but in their mind, in the quiet moments when they scroll through pictures, when a song plays, when they catch a glimpse of someone who reminds them of you, but doesn't feel like you. That's when time delivers your message. Not your words, not your pain, but your absence. See, words can be ignored, actions can be misread, but the consistent, undeniable ticking of time without your presence, that can't be faked. That can't be outrun. That's the truth they'll live with. And you just keep building quietly, calmly, without the need to post it. Because every brick you lay, every habit you form, every version of you that rises silently from the ashes, that's the proof. You're not trying to be irreplaceable anymore, you just are. Not because they finally saw it, but because you finally stopped needing them to. And that's where the power lives. Not in being noticed, but in being undeniable. So if you're done explaining your value to people who had front row seats and still blinked, write this in the comments right now. Time proves my worth. Let them see it. Let yourself feel it. Show the world around you that you're not chasing clarity anymore. You're becoming it. And stay with me, because what comes next isn't just power. It's closure without needing a single word. And that's the part that hits the hardest. Number 8, letting go forces them to sit with their choices. You don't punish them by reacting. You punish them by disappearing. That's it. That's the truth they never saw coming. You're not yelling. You're not slamming doors. You're not sending final messages dripping in emotion. You're just gone. And that stillness, that's where the regret begins. Because when you let go fully, completely, unapologetically, you force them to sit in the reality they created without your protection. You're no longer there to soften the fall. Now they hit the floor alone. You were the cushion, the one who caught their emotional weight every time they slipped, the one who showed up when they didn't ask, who stayed when they pushed, who tried to understand when they made no effort to explain. You were the consistent presence in a world full of flaky people and short attention spans. You gave them peace and they treated it like background noise. But not anymore. Now you're not answering. You're not watching their stories. You're not making yourself visible in their world. And for the first time, they feel it. The space, the void, the brutal silence that doesn't break no matter how long they wait. It's not because you're bitter, it's because you've evolved. And evolution doesn't ask for permission. You see, letting go isn't weakness, it's warfare. Silent warfare, emotional clarity. And the reason it's so powerful is that it forces them to confront the one thing they've been avoiding: themselves, their behavior, their patterns. The way they let someone real slip away like it was no big deal. But now there's no distraction, no fallback, no version of you they can call up when their loneliness hits. They lost access, and now they're drowning in the silence they built. That's the part people never tell you, that when you stop trying, stop fixing, stop explaining, it doesn't just change the dynamic, it flips their entire emotional structure upside down, because they built a version of the world where you were always there, always available, always just one text away. And when you stop feeding that illusion, it collapses hard. And they'll try to pretend. Oh, they'll smile, they'll post, they'll laugh too loud in stories meant for your eyes. But inside, they're spiraling because the attention they chased can't hold a candle to the depth you gave. The noise they're surrounding themselves with doesn't fill the silence your presence used to cover, and that realization creeps in slowly. It doesn't explode. It erodes piece by piece until they can't escape it anymore. But don't let that pull you back in. Don't let their confusion become person who leaves quietly is always remembered the loudest, the one who doesn't return texts, who doesn't chase, who doesn't try to prove. He becomes unforgettable because your silence speaks in a language their ego never wanted to learn: accountability. You used to fill in the blanks for them. You used to explain what they refused to ask, but now the blanks stay blank. The questions remain unanswered, and that mystery, that silence, it keeps growing until one day they realize they weren't just losing someone. They were losing the only person who ever gave them peace without asking for payment. But here's the best part. You're not even waiting for this moment. You're not refreshing your feed to see if they finally liked your post. You're not hoping they get it. You've already moved. You've already grown. You're not trying to be missed anymore. You've just become someone they can't forget. And there's a difference. They'll talk about you. Maybe not out loud, maybe not to their friends, but in their mind, in the quiet moments when they scroll through pictures, when a song plays, when they catch a glimpse of someone who reminds them of you, but doesn't feel like you. That's when time delivers your message. Not your words, not your pain, but your absence. See, words can be ignored, actions can be misread, but the consistent, undeniable ticking of time without your presence, that can't be faked. That can't be outrun. That's the truth they'll live with. And you just keep building quietly, calmly, without the need to post it. Because every brick you lay, every habit you form, every version of you that rises silently from the ashes, that's the proof. You're not trying to be irreplaceable anymore, you just are. Not because they finally saw it, but because you finally stopped needing them to. And that's where the power lives. Not in being noticed, but in being undeniable. So if you're done explaining your value to people who had front row seats and still blinked, write this in the comments right now. Time proves my worth. Let them see it. Let yourself feel it. Show the world around you that you're not chasing clarity anymore. You're becoming it. And stay with me, because what comes next isn't just power. It's closure without needing a single word. And that's the part that hits the hardest. Number 8, letting go forces them to sit with their choices. You don't punish them by reacting. You punish them by disappearing. That's it. That's the truth they never saw coming. You're not yelling. You're not slamming doors. You're not sending final messages dripping in emotion. You're just gone. And that stillness, that's where the regret begins. Because when you let go fully, completely, unapologetically, you force them to sit in the reality they created without your protection. You're no longer there to soften the fall. Now they hit the floor alone. You were the cushion, the one who caught their emotional weight every time they slipped, the one who showed up when they didn't ask, who stayed when they pushed, who tried to understand when they made no effort to explain. You were the consistent presence in a world full of flaky people and short attention spans. You gave them peace and they treated it like background noise. But not anymore. Now you're not answering. You're not watching their stories. You're not making yourself visible in their world. And for the first time, they feel it. The space, the void, the brutal silence that doesn't break no matter how long they wait. It's not because you're bitter, it's because you've evolved. And evolution doesn't ask for permission. You see, letting go isn't weakness, it's warfare. Silent warfare, emotional clarity. And the reason it's so powerful is that it forces them to confront the one thing they've been avoiding: themselves, their behavior, their patterns. The way they let someone real slip away like it was no big deal. But now there's no distraction, no fallback, no version of you they can call up when their loneliness hits. They lost access, and now they're drowning in the silence they built. That's the part people never tell you, that when you stop trying, stop fixing, stop explaining, it doesn't just change the dynamic, it flips their entire emotional structure upside down, because they built a version of the world where you were always there, always available, always just one text away. And when you stop feeding that illusion, it collapses hard. And they'll try to pretend. Oh, they'll smile, they'll post, they'll laugh too loud in stories meant for your eyes. But inside, they're spiraling because the attention they chased can't hold a candle to the depth you gave. The noise they're surrounding themselves with doesn't fill the silence your presence used to cover. And that realization creeps in slowly. It doesn't explode. It erodes piece by piece until they can't escape it anymore. But don't let that pull you back in. Don't let their confusion become your responsibility. You're not their fixer anymore. You're not their emotional safety net. You're free. And with that freedom comes a responsibility to yourself, to keep growing, to keep building, to keep choosing you even when part of you still wants to be chosen. Because here's the thing, if you go back now, they don't learn. If you crack, if you reach, if you explain, it gives them comfort. It cushions the fall. It teaches them that they can walk all over someone and still have a place to return to. But when you let go and stay gone, that's when the real reflection starts. That's when they stop blaming you and start looking inward. That's when they realize, I did this. I lost them, and I don't know how to get them back. That's the classroom you built with your silence. That's the mirror you placed in front of them when you stopped showing up. And that mirror? It doesn't flatter, it doesn't filter, it just reflects the truth. And the truth is, they were given a gift and they let it slip. That's on them. So if you're done cushioning their fall, if you're done being the soft place they land after they wreck everything, write this in the comments right now. Letting go is how I rise. Say it with your chest. Say it for every version of you that stayed too long. Say it for the you that's finally choosing peace over proximity. And stay with me, because next, we're stepping fully into the shift, the energy flip. The version of you that no longer explains, no longer pleads, no longer waits. Because that version, that's the one they'll never forget and never get back. Number 9, the energy shift they never expected. The most powerful shift isn't when you say something. It's when you say nothing and everything changes. That's what they never saw coming. They thought you'd always be the same, always reaching, always chasing, always available. They were so used to your warmth that they never imagined what your cold side would feel like. But then something shifted. You stopped reacting. You stopped explaining. You stopped showing up like your presence didn't cost you anything. And now they feel it, that invisible shift in energy that hits harder than any goodbye. You didn't announce it. You didn't throw a tantrum or send a final emotional message. You just got quiet, focused, pulled back. And in that stillness, you became unreadable, unavailable, unbothered. And that silence flipped the entire dynamic because you were no longer the person they could lean on when they felt weak. You were no longer the comfort zone they thought would always be there. You became the unknown, the mystery, the one they couldn't predict anymore. And that's what people crave the most, the thing they can't figure out. See, when you're predictable, you become invisible. But when you shift your energy, when you become selective with your time, your effort, your attention, suddenly they don't know how to reach you. And that confusion eats at them because once they had access to you, now they're locked out without explanation. And nothing makes someone obsess more than being shut out of a world they once took for granted. You didn't do it to manipulate. You did it because you finally understood the truth. Your peace is more valuable than their attention. You stopped performing. You stopped proving. You stopped bleeding in front of someone who only brought band-aids when it was convenient. And that, my friend, is when you became untouchable. They thought they'd miss the old you, but they didn't know. The new you would be even harder to get. The version of you who no longer asks why, who no longer waits, who no longer rearranges his life just to keep a connection that doesn't pour back into him. That version of you, that's the one they didn't prepare for. That's the one they can't forget. So if you're done being the person they once understood and ready to become the person they now regret losing, comment below right now. I shifted and they felt it. Say it loud. Show them. Show yourself. Show the world around you that silence wasn't your weakness. It was your rebirth. And if this hit you in the chest, do 2 things right now. Hit that like button so I know you're locked in, and subscribe so you never miss what's coming next. Share this with someone who needs to hear it. And remember this, the moment your energy changed, so did everything else.